Love Life, featuring your hosts Rebecca Detman and Jane Donovan.
The sun shines bright as it moves across my face. I feel the light.
I am the master of my body. I connect with love and healing.
Welcome to Love Life. I'm Rebecca Detman.
And I'm Jane Donovan.
And we are covering some very heavy-hitting subject material today. We thought we would do cancer. We've never done anything on terminal illness. We've never done anything on any sort of actually quite cancer's not always life-threatening, is it? But we haven't done any real serious illnesses before on the show, Jane. Certainly not devoted half an hour just to talking about when the body is in a real state of dis-ease. And there's a number of different ways we can come at this topic today. I know I've already got a few bouncing around in my head, and I know Jane will probably have her own angles. We know that with the statistics the way they are right now, if you haven't experienced cancer yourself or don't even have it currently have it right now, you will know somebody who's been touched by it or has passed away from it. Because, and I don't have the statistics at my fingertips, I'm sorry, but it's literally like 1 in 5, 1 in 3 or something like that.
It's very high.
Everybody we know.
I think it's 1 in 3.
So we know that there's an enormous slab out there of the population who at some point are going to come in contact with this very 21st century disease. And I say that because from Rebecca's theory, from my observation, it's kind of interesting. And here comes in the spiritual, emotional, psychosomatic stuff about how diseases and illnesses almost seem to come in trends. So, for example, in the olden days, people used to get things like gout or tuberculosis. I know that now these days we've got different medical conditions and hygiene and water, and some might say vaccinations or whatever. It has changed a lot of that. But then, for example, in the 80s, we had AIDS was the huge thing. It was all of a sudden, it was like the whole world was aware of it for the first time, and it was the disease of the decade. And there was so much talk about it, and Time magazine covers and celebrities with it and all of this. And it's almost like, not that AIDS has gone away, and it's still a huge problem in Africa particularly, but you don't hear about AIDS anymore. It's almost like it's not trendy anymore. And now everyone's got cancer.
And I think the next thing after that will be dementia.
Oh, maybe, because the ageing population or the baby boomers.
But at the same time, if you've got dementia or any signs of it, just drink more water.
Oh, thanks, Jane.
Dehydrated brain. There you go.
Okay.
Done.
So it's funny. You don't pick up a Charles Dickens novel and like the main character dies of cancer. You don't read ancient Roman, legends and people die of cancer. It seems to be such a thing of the late 20th, 21st century. Is it due to the pollutants and the chemicals we have at numbers now that we've never had before because of all the crop spraying and all the chemicals in our cleaning products? Is it due to the things in the food that we're eating now that we didn't used to eat in the history of the world? Or is it the sickness of the 21st century mind and heart? Is it what the energy is now doing in our bodies as it revolts against the shallow, meaningless, materialistic lostness that is in the world at the moment due to all the low self-worth and all the disconnection that's going on? Maybe it's all the Wi-Fi and all the broadband.
We're all being told that 1 in 3 are going to get cancer, so therefore we're vibrationally fearing it.
Culture of fear. Is it because we've created a complete culture of fear? And maybe it's all of these things. I don't know. How do you want to kick off today's show, Jane?
Look, I think the first thing is that I've said in many podcasts before, but I'm going to say it again because it's fitting here, is that we get our messages with a feather, a brick, or a sledgehammer. So if I woke up tomorrow and had symptoms of cancer, then I would assume that I missed the feather message and I missed the brick message. So my observation, for whatever purpose, whatever reason, wasn't on track and I missed it. So it is happening in pandemic proportions, potentially one reason being that we have a society that isn't listening to their body, that isn't connected to their emotions, that isn't receiving the messages with the feather. So the brick could be getting the cancer, or maybe it's a sledgehammer. It depends what your life's been. It could be that could be the brick, and maybe having it for many, many years and not going into remission could be the sledgehammer. However, I feel that if we keep constantly checking in with the early symptoms of our body, it's unlikely that we will get cancer.
I love that this is where we've begun today, because it is all about conscious level awareness. Let's use cancer like a metaphor, like the cancer of a dying relationship, that like the poisonous
The toxic
growth that happens between two people if you don't pay attention to the red flags or the little warning bells that are there from the very start. 20 years down the track, you're going to be sick with a quote-unquote cancer between the two of you, with tumours growing out of your relationship. This is the same as anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's jobs that your heart of hearts is kind of whispering to you, this isn't a good environment for you to be in, you don't trust these people, the boss is bad for you, the work isn't meeting your life purpose, your soul, and you keep on keeping on, you keep going to that desk every day and kind of sticking your fingers in your ears and going la 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 and not listening, and it ends up being a cancer on your life, if you know what I mean. The burden of this job, which then can make people sick. People can then get cancers and things like that.
But remember that cancer it's a disease, but it's not actually a sickness. You have no symptoms usually with cancer.
It's fascinating,
You
isn't
don't
it?
actually have any symptoms, so you're not actually technically sick.
Oh, Jane, I've got to actually even get my head around that.
Okay, so if somebody says, I've got cancer, and then somebody will say, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, you're so very, very sick. But they've got no symptoms. The only reason they usually go to cancer, they discover they've got cancer is because they maybe went and had a routine screening.
Yeah.
And something abnormal was discovered.
Blood test or something.
Or, exactly. It's often by chance
Scrape
that people...
some cells. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have this thing that you go prodding around in your body, you're going to have all sorts of things. If you want to go looking for it, you're going to find it.
Yeah. And it's a bit like...
But having said that, I'm not anti the early diagnosis and all of that. I think the sooner the better. If you can get something told that, look, there's something not good here, then you've got your opportunity to really heal the best from the inside out.
Of course. There is this saying in the spiritual circles that if women who go and get mammograms every single 4 weeks, and, you know, first day of the month, oh, mammogram day on Facebook, everybody check your breasts, and those of them remind the people you love to check their breasts. If you go looking for something that hard in the universe, you're going to find it.
That's right.
Because you're actually looking, you're on an Easter egg hunt for Easter eggs. You're on a cancer hunt for cancer in your boobs. It's almost like you're willing it to happen. Every month better check again. Let's see if it's here now. Is it here yet? Keep looking for it. Keep putting, this is classic Abraham Hicks law of attraction stuff. You want to keep putting energy towards something, you're going to build it out of the ether.
Yes. And unfortunately, because there is so much media around cancer and cancer awareness and cancer prevention and cancer treatment and cancer fundraising and etc., is that the fear is there, and it's pretty hard to not have some form of fear around the word cancer. So I think what I'd love us to do in today's podcast is try and get you comfortable with it.
Big time.
Try and get you at the point where, look, you know what, if you did one day present with cancerous cells, that you have a game plan of what it is you would do from this point forward. But at the same time, about how I think it would also be important for us to, how do spiritual people support people with cancer that are not spiritual?
For sure.
You know, that's a biggie.
But let's
That's a really
start with
biggie.
this culture of fear, because this is what we do need to understand. A lot of people are highly aware that there are quite a number of different natural herbs, plants, barks, spices, etc. in the Amazon rainforest, for example, right now, which can cure cancer. There are other people who will say that, getting your
body alkaline.
Alkaline is a cure for cancer.
Cancer it can only live in acidity.
Cannabis oil. So everyone's all anti-marijuana. The government loves to hate marijuana, which is one of the gentlest, most natural herbs in the world, which eases pain and shrinks tumours. They give little medical-grade cannabis oil capsules. So, like, I've seen a young girl on Facebook taking it, and symptoms, cells disappear or heal.
I've also seen a friend of mine has a child who suffers severe epilepsy, where she has, 3 or 4 seizures a day, like very severe, and is often hospitalised as a result. Now, she's started on cannabis treatment and massive results.
Exactly.
Very exciting.
So, of course, it's all the answers which the government or the cancer societies don't love. I mean, I'm going to be brutal here. We pour billions of dollars into cancer research. Do you really think that with all of the brains and the technology and the science that's behind it, after this many years, it's like, I know that they kind of make inroads and stuff, but we never actually hear of anything that useful other than let's just continue blasting people with chemotherapy to just basically kill their bodies to a point where they're still alive, but enough of their body is dead that it starts over. It's not good enough to me. It's absolutely ridiculous. We are basically maintaining a huge industry with a whole lot of money that's been cooked up in all these little pink ribbon morning teas and selling all these beauty products with pink ribbon on them. It's pink washing is what's going on here, because all of those beauty products have cancerous, carcinogenic stuff in their formulas anyway. And I, as a beauty editor, I used to always feel conflicted about that. Every October, let's do a page in the magazine of all the pink ribbon products. And I'd be like, what, the deodorants that you put under your arms that put the cells in your glands that create the breast cancer, those ones? Is that what you're talking? The perfumes?
I have a problem with, the Diabetes Association selling jelly bean lollies for fundraising.
See,
okay.
And McDonald's sponsors school sports, and it's just the world
unethical.
World is mad. And I'm, for one, am getting really sick of being asked for money all the time to pour into bottomless black holes of cancer research funds when I don't see one shred of evidence that anyone is really coming up with anything really useful to help cancer. And when people come up with things like, oh, it's a diet or it's a natural herb, nobody wants to know about that. Government, scientists, doctors, medical, they're not really interested in that, whether either they can't patent it or they can't sell it or they can't get kickback commission offer or whatever the story goes. So it is very convenient in this culture for cancer to be a thing. We have just built the biggest hospital here in South Australia in the Southern Hemisphere or something stupid like that. Why? Because everyone is so sick. It actually helps to pump money into the economy. All the nurses get jobs. Half the girls I know are nurses. Everyone gets work, gets money, gets drug research, because the sicker everyone is, it kind of drives a whole industry of its own, big pharma.
Yeah. I just want to add a little note here that I actually have a couple of clients that are both working cancer research, and both of them are wellness warriors, and one of them specialises in how to counterbalance the damage caused through cancer treatment. And I love it. So we've got our warriors in there that are conscious, that are really looking at doing stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if there is so much out there in mainstream medicine that is absolutely incredible and useful. But as you say, we've got Big Brother that's not going to release it, blah, blah, blah. But that's getting into theories, and we want to get away from that for the moment. But I think it's important to understand that too. I think that we need to know why we've got the fear and why it is everywhere. But what can we do as an individual to either, make sure that we're in wellness and not in dis-ease, so that we don't start to manifest a disease for our body to be screaming at us to get our attention around whatever emotional cause.
Yeah.
At the same time, what is it that we can be doing if we have been diagnosed with dis-ease, and whatever form of dis-ease it is, to be healing that part of our body?
Let's look at cancer. One person smokes a pack a day for their whole life. And they never get anything, and they live to their 101. The next person smokes a pack a day for their whole life, and they get emphysema, which is the lungs, right?
Yes.
And then the next person smokes a pack a day, and they get bronchial up in the throat. Now, why does cancer present in totally different places for different people and not at all in others? This is where we get into vibrational theory, and we get into emotional, spiritual, psychosomatic work. Many of you listening will remember the beautiful Jessica Ainscough, thewellnesswarrior.com.au, whatever she was, who was on the front page of the Weekend Australian here. She collaborated with people in New York. She drove blogging. She drove podcasting. She drove YouTubing. She created an amazing wellness industry around the fact that she had cancer. And so did her mother. And they both went to the institute in California.
Can't remember which.
Gerson therapy. Anyway, she was using the dietary method to approach to kill her cancer cells through juicing, predominantly eating foods high in certain things, nutrients, vitamins, etc. Did it work? Well, she passed away. Did the medical profession, the skeptics, have a field day? Yes, they did. And they used her death to point the finger at quack science. And this is why you must stay with the medicos if you have health problems. But this comes back to the emotional. And I talked to Jess a few times and did sessions with her when she was alive. And And I'm also thinking now of a patient of mine, and I was very, very privileged to have this gift that I got to work 2 times with a woman who was dying of cancer, and I went into the hospital and sat with her not very long before she died. Now, she, on the one hand, this second woman understood everything that I would talk to her about. We talked about her soul contract. We talked about her lessons in this lifetime. We talked about her blocks. We talked about what she couldn't forgive and all of that stuff. She got it mentally. She got it intellectually. Her body wasn't ready to come to the party. Her body wasn't ready to release the blocks emotionally yet. She was still in a lot of personal fear. That was that client. Jess Ainscough did remarkable inroads into the chemical, the physiological, the physical, but I feel that the one area that she only started to come into right at the end was the emotional, spiritual, not with enough time to really start to look at her own demons. And so I would suggest, I think Jess was here for a number of reasons as a role model. I think that she role modeled many different things to many different people who observed her journey from many different vantage points. But it's my personal take, and I hope that this doesn't sound at all disrespectful, but just that there was some missing elements to the pieces of the puzzle with Jess that she hadn't yet found, which were part of the mystery as to why she had such an aggressive rare cancer from such a young age. I don't know, maybe she put in her soul contract, I want to come down and get aggressive rare cancer at a young age to help teach people about cancer.
I don't think we're ever going to really understand the why.
And we don't need to know. But my point is, let's talk about the emotional game.
Yeah, exactly. So I wish I'd looked up, because I love, Annette Noontill's book, The Body is the Barometer of the Soul. And I love my little app that I've got on my phone of Louise Hay's Heal Your Life, which is really, really fast app to go, cancer, what's their interpretation of it?
And can I just say, Louise Hay, let's all bear in mind, had cervical cancer, however you pronounce it.
Cervical.
What's cervical?
I don't know, but you've almost got the word survivor in there, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Did I make up that word anyway?
Well, I think survivor cancer, there you go.
Survivor cancer. Louise Hay had cancer and cured herself of cancer through emotional release work. And that is why she is such a master that everyone has listened to for the last 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that really Google whatever it is that you've got, because this while we're talking cancer, this really does apply to any disease. Find out what the interpretations are. Go to a few different sources. You'll see similarities there. Go for the most common denominator, and then really look at yourself. Is this my truth? Now, I have, flicked off little, I'll be on the phone to someone and they say, I've got a really bad neck. So I look up neck, I screenshot it, I text it to them. I do it several times a day with most people. And they will often go, that's so spot on. But every now and again, somebody says, no, it's not. And then I go, you need to go deeper. You've got to really go deeper, because I've yet to see it not be true. So we use this literally as a fast diagnosis tool. Because it is hard to understand what our body is saying to us when it's presenting with a symptom. There's the easy ones of my knees hurt. Well, get down and surrender. My back hurts. How are you not being supported, or how are you not supporting yourself? My neck hurts, pain in the neck. Who's being a pain in the neck, or who are you being a pain in the neck to?
Yeah.
But some are really hard to interpret. So get that and then start looking at that. And then really, how can you heal that? Is it your truth? Do you need to reframe it? Is it a belief that's not a belief any longer, that's not serving you, etc.? Really get in with the emotional healers. You can get into kinesiology here. You can get into lifeline technique to get into the subconscious. If you believe it's not your story, then get muscle tested to see if it is your story, because it will be.
We all know that I'm a bit of an extremist, but I think in this day and age, if you're listening to this podcast show and you get any sort of medical symptoms of something quite very strong in the body, if you choose to go the Western medical path, that's fine. But if you do not complement that with some sort of emotional release work technique, I think you are absolutely in denial. It's like Eastern and Western, you've got to put the two together. You've got to realise that what happens in the body is that energy that has never been dealt with, heavy emotional negative energy from this lifetime or from a past lifetime, which you have not processed at a consciously awake, aware level and healed and calibrated and moved through, has to go somewhere. It has to go somewhere. Where is it going to go? It's going to cluster. Where is it going to cluster? In the place in your body that is considered the most vulnerable. Now, for example, let's say in a past life you got a spear wound right through the stomach and you felt really betrayed by the person that threw that spear. Well, maybe your stomach is now a hotbed for anything that's a bit uneasy or a bit sick feeling or a bit worried or rejection, abandonment, betrayal, shame, any emotion. You're going to start to put it there and snowball it. Then you get gut problems. Then you get digestive problems. Then you get inflammation of the digestive tract and all of the colitis and different, those sorts of things. And that becomes your storage place for the shit, because it is the place where the poo is processed down in there. And it's when you're not moving through the shit and working through the shit in your life, not processing the shit, not dealing with shit. It's a metaphor. So people tend to have cluster places in their bodies where they always, like their shoulder's always the first to go, or they always get a migraine, or everyone's got their thing, their vulnerability in the body. So I'd love you to be working with the place in your body that you know is the vulnerable place, and that is where you should be muscle testing to see what emotions are being trapped in that place, whether it's the gut, whether it's the ear, whether it's the tongue, whether it's the brain, whatever is going on. We want to be releasing out the energy. And to that extent, there are some amazing traditional Chinese medicine doctors and Ayurvedic doctors as well, who work with a lot of cancer patients, because they will get the chi flowing. They will unblock which meridians are clogged up with the prana or the chi. They will work with rebalancing the yin and the yang and all the different organs.
I'm a big fan of Chinese medicine.
They will incorporate burning herbs on the body. They will incorporate acupuncture, or they will incorporate acupressure, and a number of different things, which, you know what, quite frankly, kids, you don't need to understand how it works, but trust me, it does. It just does. It's insane, some of that stuff.
I also want to talk about breast cancer. What's that wonderful cowboy from the States that I always forget his name? Don, yeah, somebody who's amazing.
Don
Tolman.
Don Tolman?
Tolman. He talks about breast cancer. Now, my thing on breast cancer, breast femininity.
Love heart.
Where are they? Right over the heart.
Yep.
The bigger they get, the more they're protecting your heart, says Jane with size Fs.
It's your mothering and it's your nurturing and...
Yeah, but he talks about breast cancer as so he has very simple physical things, such as he's the one that says with dementia.
44.
Oh,
sorry, a car just went past with 44 on it.
He talks about, like with dementia, he's the one that says the water, it's the dehydrated brain. You know, eat walnuts and drink lots of water, you'll be right. But he talks about with breast cancer, get the bras off. He, like the whole body, he believes is all tubes, and everywhere that they're restricted is where...
It's like tight elastic banded women who used to wear corsets and cut off their energy flow and underwires under the breasts and all that kind of stuff as well. David Wolfe.
But what do? You got big boobs. I've got to have underwire.
I don't know, Jane. I don't.
Or maybe I don't. Maybe I just have to let them free flow and see how the real world handles that.
Maybe that's a body shaming belief from the Western culture that you can't have big heavy breasts.
It is, I know.
David Wolfe, WOLFE. He has a lot of food is medicine stuff on his blog as well. He's one of the leading experts. Him and Dr. McCullough have some excellent anti-establishment information, anti-mainstream medical information if you're looking to cure cancer through some alternative means. But the other... Oh, you want to say something?
Yeah, I do. I also really want to touch on clusters.
Yeah?
I want to talk about, what's it called? You've got the such and such a gene?
The such and such a gene.
Which means that you've been tested for the cancer gene and now you need to go and get mastectomies.
Oh, right, yes. Who did that? Angelina Jolie had her whole uterus ripped out, didn't she?
Oh, and she had breasts?
Was it breasts? A mastectomy, double mastectomy, because she had a gene. I took great personal affront to that personal decision of hers.
I was disappointed.
Yeah.
There was also I read a TV documentary, or I read something quite a few years ago about a big pocket of journalists that were all working for a television station, and they all got breast cancer within the same period of time. And so there was it was a wonderful, it was a blog I read, article, and it was done in a lovely natural holistic publication. So they were talking about emotional clusters. And that is actually what I believe the cancer gene is when somebody says they've got the cancer gene in their family and everyone's got to get tested for it, blah, blah, blah. I truly believe it's because that family has a soul contract to be playing out a certain drama And that drama creates a certain similar emotional behaviour within each of them, which therefore, of course, if not treated, dealt with, does lead to the same form of illness.
Well, like hereditary illnesses or genetic illnesses as well, playing out in the DNA family story.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it interesting they're now saying that DNA is only responsible for 10%?
Oh, how little we know. How little we know.
I love it, I love it, I love it.
And Angelina Jolie, just back to the double mastectomy she had. I mean, it's this whole idea of people not trusting their bodies as well. This is why I talk about meditation, because we don't have conversations with our bodies. We are not attuned to what their needs and wants are, what the body is asking us, and we don't have a lot of trust. This is why birthing in this country is such a disaster, because women, from the neck down, have no relationship with any part of their body and don't actually believe that it's capable of doing anything without a doctor standing present with a stethoscope and a machine that goes bing. And the same applies to cancer. Now, go.
I was going to say, I want to touch on, because we're running out of time too, and I want to touch on how you can best support a friend who's going through cancer treatment that isn't spiritual, that is not open to you saying, here, say this affirmation, here, go get this, go get some subconscious muscle work healing done, go drink this green smoothie. They're going, no, I'm going down the proven path, and they're very modern tradition. How can we best support them?
Tell them, remind them, reassure them about how strong they are, inner and outer, that their body is strong and that their inner warrior is very strong. Remind them that I guess you can't use this language if they're too close-minded, but it's that lovely old saying, the universe never throws you more than you can handle. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine because... And this is where I like to talk about gifts.
Because I think this is where you've got to try and get them out of their fear. I'm dying of cancer. I'm very, very, very sick. We've got to help them to change their language gently to, I am strong. I'm going to beat this. I will win. I am winning. They're not great examples, but... To
redirect the mind to what positive things they can hold on to. Well, let's concentrate on your children. Let's concentrate in connecting better with your family members. Let's concentrate on doing things that do bring you joy at this time. Let's concentrate on pastimes that are healthy or nurturing for you. Let's concentrate on looking at some of those relationships that need a little bit of work so that you can get better quality interactions out of those people if you have limited time left, or if this could be impacting upon your longevity.
If somebody is also somebody they love is really is terminal, there is a wonderful documentary made by Lorraine Webb from the Adelaide Healing Energy Centre called, I think it's called Living and Dying Consciously, where she recorded her sister who died of cancer, or crossed over, but she recorded her in her bad moments, recorded her right through the end of her, up to her death. And it's fascinating to see when the hospital was saying it's a bad day today because her sister was not responsive. When she came to, she was also talking about where she'd been, which was the other side, and with her other sister and her mother, and so it was actually a good day. So it's a really empowering movie for anybody that really wants to come to peace with dying consciously. Highly recommend it.
You can't talk about something as enormous as cancer in somebody's life journey and not talk about it as a gift, because it's another form of a teacher. Sometimes teachers are people, it's always husbands, best friends, sisters, and sometimes cancer or some sort of an illness comes along as a gift. Now, I remember a woman who got breast cancer and had to be bedridden for 6 months, and I talked to her probably a year or two after all of that had happened. And I was very young at this time. I might have been 12 or 14 or something like that. This was one of my earliest experiences with talking to someone who had a lot of conscious awareness around stuff. And she said to me, I had been going through my life non-stop, and nothing would slow me down. So it was like a great big hand came out of the sky and said, stop, and sat me down, and I couldn't get out of bed for 6 months. And I had a lot of time to think and process and reflect on all the stuff I'd been running from, deflecting, distracting, and not dealing with. And that was her gift, and she obviously survived and was fine. She needed that time out, and the universe gave it to her the only way they could slow down a speeding freight train. And that's often what illness is. It's that sledgehammer Jane talked about earlier. Nothing else is going to stop a lot of people in their tracks or give them the wake-up calls or the deep level aha realizations that they're actually waiting to have, which they can't get in their normal everyday life where they're too distracted. I had another client come to me a number of times during her treatment, which went for about 1.5 years, and she would come in with walking stick, and she'd be hobbling, and she'd be quite ill, and we would just talk about the gifts and about what cancer had taught her. And if you or the person that you're with who is ill is able to really articulate that, I think that you've got all that you came for.
Oh, that's perfect. Beautiful, Beck. Beautiful. I am the master of my body. I connect with love and healing.
Could almost talk about this one for longer. But anyway, if you do need more of Jane and I, we are at lovelifeshow.com. Everything that you need from us, whether be it coaching, be it backlog of episodes, or of course on Facebook.
Which is facebook.com/lovelifeshow.
And until this time next week, have fun being as healthy and joyful as possible.
Life is perfect, I'm not trying, it's just happening. And it's a beautiful day.